Well, well, well. What have we here? It's Saturday, September 6th. It's noon Eastern time. I'm Bob Harris. It's time for my Ask Me Anything weekly live stream, and now in a new location. Before we get to your questions, I see questions are already starting. We'll kind of slow roll this a little bit. Footballguys.com, that's the website you'll all want to visit. I appreciate you joining me here every Saturday. This is the new channel, the Football Guys live channel is where we'll be doing this. And I'll be here every noon taking your questions. So hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know when I'm here and that you can ask questions, and we'll have joyous conversations about things. I try to answer a lot of questions. When it gets super busy, it's hard to get to all the questions. I hope you all in the chat can jump around and help each other. Some of you, hi Dame. Some of you may not know me. I am Bob Harris. I've been around doing this quite a while. I apply my trade at Football Guys. You'll find my daily update podcast there. Mike Dempsey and I do that. It's every weekday morning, 10 minutes of news just to get you going. My fantasy notebook comes out every Thursday. That's a change from the off season. So check it out on Thursdays. My Friday, Polarizing Players collaboration with Gary Davenport. And today, Saturday, is my in and out column where I kind of do some, take some risks, right? Get uncomfortable, as our CEO likes to say. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Sometimes we have to make tough decisions. I see some already in the chat, and we'll get to those as we get along now. And also, I want to remind you, I'm on Sirius XM, Mr. Scampers, hello. Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm hard to miss, 7 days a week, Monday through Fridays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern time with Mike Dempsey. Hello, Andrea. Saturdays, I'm on from 8 to 11 with Mike Dempsey. We're on the NFL radio channel. It's simulcast on the fantasy channel, so it's hard to miss us. 3-hour show. And so check that out. And then Sunday, the pregame show, myself and Jeff Mann, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports pregame, 11 to 1. We get your inactives and get you all set up for everything you need to know. Get along. We have some news today, by the way, and so Jelly of the Month brings up one of the stories, and so might as well start there. I'm going to work through some stories before I get to some questions. Don't panic if I haven't got to your question right away. I do see them, and I see that there's some good ones there I want to talk about. I kind of use them to springboard the decision a little bit. Yes, me and Keenan Allen, a couple old guys, getting it done on the same weekend. Thanks for coming, Toby. But the Quinshon Judkins thing is interesting. Dropped yesterday before he's signing today. Would you drop Braylon Allen or Ollie Gordon to pick him up? Yes, I probably would drop one of those players. Probably more likely to go Ollie Gordon, just based on the path to workload. Braylon Allen's probably going to have a role no matter what. I think Gordon will too, but it as well. What are we doing with players who didn't practice in August? AJ Brown would like you to know it's not always like a step right in and get things done kind of situation. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But Judkins is, if you're looking for a guy with a clear path to a featured role, he has it, right? Like, is Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson likely to be impediments? Maybe early. But if by October you have a true feature back, a guy getting the vast majority of the workload, I think that's probably a fair exchange. I love both Allen and Gordon, but I don't think either of them have the day-to-day role, barring injury, right? And that's the wild card. Allen might have the better role without an injury. Gordon might need an injury, but he might still have a role as well with Jaylen Warren out. But again, do either of them have the clear path to workload that you see with Quinshon Judkins? The question for Judkins is there some NFL, some league mandated discipline, and that is entirely possible. I want to talk about some of the injuries. Let me just run through the injuries real quick before I get to some of the questions, and then we'll kind of use some of those to answer some of the questions as well. But I mean, we all know the big news this week, right? It's Christian McCaffrey, right? Turnover is questionable. We've seen this movie before. We saw it like exactly a year ago when on the Friday before a game. Last year it was a Monday night game, but he turns up as questionable. He appeared to hurt his calf in Thursday's practice. I watched video of what he was doing Friday when he was listed as not practicing. I mean, he did not practice, but it wasn't like he was doing nothing. Morning, Royal Slave. Morning, Bruce. I'll get to that question as well. It wasn't like he was doing nothing, right? Like, he was moving well, jumping around. He was doing things and moving in a way that injured people don't normally do. But that said, there's clearly an issue going on. And I kind of like to revert back. Like, whenever something's going on with Christian McCaffrey, and I want the contrary view, or I want to say Grant Cohen covers the 49ers for S.com. And he is he's an in-your-face kind of reporter, right? And he's always questioning everything. And I think it's good to have that voice, obviously, when it comes to the 49ers. And his take was he saw what he characterized as the injury happened. And when it happened was, so McCaffrey's worked without any difficulty, right? All offseason, all throughout training camp. They gave him 1 out of every 4 days off. So he'd work 3 days and then take a day off. And that was pretty much a normal thing. So there was no real questions about health. But Thursday, before the first padded practice, the real heavy practice that they have in San Francisco before the week 1 game, he, according to Cohn, kicked it into 5th gear, McCaffrey, trying to really push himself. And that's when he got hurt. Cohen would like us to think that Christian McCaffrey will never be at 29 years old, the Christian McCaffrey we've come to know in the past. And that may be true. Like I was drafting him. I mean, like, if you get that Christian McCaffrey or a portion of that Christian McCaffrey for part of the season, you have that running back 1 upside, right? Every given week, even if he's not the same Christian McCaffrey, just based on the anticipated workload. Should we have had a clue when they traded for Brian Robinson Jr.? I don't know. I think all the focus at that point was on Washington and what the circumstances were there. There were also a number of injuries to the depth, and there are still some. Isaac Rendo's still there, but Jordan James, the rookie, is doubtful this week. And they were having depth. Garendo was hurt at that time, so they're having depth issues. So I don't know if that's something we need to, crucify ourselves for. Like, oh man, I should have known. Well, probably we should look at everything associated. There were some issues, but anyway. So McCaffrey, something is a late afternoon kickoff. There'll be plenty of, there are a handful of games available in the late afternoon window. There's the Sunday night game, a Monday night game. So you'll have fallback options. Set yourself up accordingly. If there are McCaffrey questions, that's probably going to be the answer is we don't know. And we're waiting to see. If I'm guessing right now, if you slap me in the face at 3 a.m. and said, is he going to play? I would say probably not. I mean, I don't see it. Like, when I watched the video on Friday in real time of practice, I thought there was a chance, but afterwards, just Kyle Shanahan's, and there is still a chance, like he's questionable, right? But it just seems unlikely. Yeah, they're not even our RB1, but Fantasy 101. That's why that's exactly it. He might be the best player any given week, just based on the workload and that offense and how that offense works when it's working correctly. So I'm with you there, Mr. Scampers. Also some other guys. And so I wanted to bring up some of these other guys. Devon Achane, not on the final injury report. Malik Neighbors, not on the final injury report for the Giants. Tyreek Hill, not on the final injury report. Juwan Jennings, not on the final injury report. Khalil Shakir, not on the final injury report. Cade Otton, not on the final injury report. Some guys who are. Darren Waller has been ruled out. I don't think anyone was forcing it alive. Tyler Bass in Buffalo's on the IR, by the way. Some of these guys, Christian Kirk has been ruled out, by the way, in Carolina for Houston. So that's worth noting. Darnell Mooney is questionable. He's another one. Packers, Jaden Reed, questionable. Dontavian Wicks turned up as questionable. Savion Williams is also questionable there. I'm a Matthew Golden guy. So I want to talk about some of these guys, though. Like, everyone worried about A.J. Brown. I saw Fantasy Points had a metric, put out. Joe Dolan, my friend there, put out their charting team had A.J. Harrison in the Thursday night opener with 0 routes won. He didn't win a single route that he ran. He's usually at the top of those metrics. Now, is that because he sat out pretty much all of August with a hamstring injury? Is that because the hamstring's still tender and he doesn't want to push off? I mean, all those things are possible. So we look at Devon Achane, who did not practice since August 16th. He's been back a week, right? He's been back a week. So, but is that enough? So look, Justin Jefferson didn't practice from the first week of August through until a week ago, right? He's practiced this week and he practiced the week before. Justin Jefferson, a guy we're really worried about. Malik Neighbors has had minimal practices all throughout OTAs because he was nursing the toe issue. Then he's had tightness in his back, which kept him out one day this week as well. Hardly practiced, right? I will say he practiced enough to be the leading receiver of Russell Wilson in training camp, but he wasn't out there every day. So, for me, Devon Achane, it's been since, again, August 16th. Tyreek Hill, August 6th was that. So maybe we have to figure this out. I wrote a column 2 weeks ago in my fantasy notebook, like a week ago, a fantasy notebook. I guess it was for this week. Got it. There was 2 that were really close together. One was Saturday. Fantasy notebook day is now Thursday, people. It used to be Saturdays in the off season. But there's some trouble out here. Somebody might have 2 kickers on IR. Oh no, it happens. but I did right. Like, so as we're sitting here in week one, the question often is, and again, going to get to your questions, but like, and so these questions that I'm seeing are not of this nature, but like I had a phone call on the Sirius show I think it was Tuesday this week. And the question was, do I sit Devon Achane in favor and go out and pick up somebody off the waiver wire? Right. I'm thinking, probably not. Right. Even if Achane winning the game questionable and he played and it's an early kickoff against Indy, I'd probably be okay with that. But we need to dial back. And so that gets me thinking with all these players, like we're playing, the old saw, the cliche is play your studs. It's week one. I don't know who my studs are. I know who I want them to be, and I'm going to play those guys. And so it's more player investments. And so I think as I sit here, everyone I drafted through 3 rounds is in my lineups. If they're in their team's lineups, I'm just going to go with that, right? For week one, I'm not going to try to outsmart myself. That's what we do as fantasy managers. We are the best at outsmarting ourselves. And so I'm trying not to do that. But like there are legitimate questions about all these guys, about Malik Neighbors, about Justin Jefferson, about Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill. They have not had full months of practice. Are they going to be up to speed? I think back to some examples. Last year, Sam Laporta missed a lot of August with a hamstring. Took him half the year to get up to speed. Was that because Jameson Williams came in, was hogging targets? Or was it because Sam Laporta wasn't Sam Laporta? We could say with Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe Isaiah Pacheco isn't all the way back. According to last night's game, it didn't look that way, right? He broke his leg early after week 2. First 2 weeks last year, got true feature workloads, 15 carries, 19 carries. Since then, it's been 5, and he hasn't looked great. So, and I think back to him drawing the line between him and Tony Pollard the year in a playoff game in January for the Cowboys. He fractured his tibia, whichever that is. Doctors help me out there. And he said it took him until week 10 of the next season to start feeling himself again. So these are things we probably need to, we probably need to be mindful of, but are they things that change our decision? Is there anyone you drafted after the first 3 rounds that you would push ahead of those guys in the first 3 rounds? Like and like recent games, the first 2 games, it suggested, man, I could have played Javonte Williams. And even if I would have known he was going to get 2 touchdowns, right? But you didn't draft him to be that guy. You could have played him ahead of Devon Achane, right? Could have played him ahead of Christian McCaffrey. But would you have done that? No reasonable person. The Jahan Dotson, Dallas Goedert was maybe a more reasonable option. But weird things happen in the Friday night game. Didn't see Xavier Worthy getting hurt. And by the way, it's a shoulder injury. We don't know more about that. MRI coming today. So that'll be another one to watch. But Keenan Allen, like we had a reasonable expectation that he might be pretty good. As good as he was. Quentin Johnston, did we expect a multi-touchdown output there? So like, in hindsight, it's easy to say, man, why wouldn't I start that guy? Well, you wouldn't start that guy because you didn't invest to start that guy. So again, like the best decisions don't always mean the best outcomes, but you play the odds in that regard, right? You play what's smart. And so I know, like, and that's why you'll often hear me talk about this, and I talk about it now. Hunches, people, they're your hunches. If you have a hunch and you want to play it, and you come in here and you say, am I crazy to X over Y? And I say, I'm not doing that, but it's probably not crazy. I mean, I will tell you if it's crazy because sometimes it is. Like I'm trying to remember who the player was that the caller wanted to put in over. I mean, it was like truly a fringe player. I mean, a non-starter. But so I'm going to tell you if I think something's crazy, but also if it's not crazy and it's your hunch and you don't play it, and Monday you're going, damn, Bob Harris told me not to play that guy. Well, no, I'm going to explain to you the differences and maybe some of the nuance and some of the things that maybe affirm some of the things you're seeing and remind you of some of the reasons why maybe other people might do it the other way. And maybe why I'm one of the other people. So that's how we roll here. We do it every damn week. Sorry, Joe. Very excited to be back. I've missed you all. I love this good chance to connect with the audience every week. And I do it like every night. I'm taking calls on Sirius. So I have a feel, but I think it's super helpful to me as I'm going through and doing my rankings and making decisions of my own every week and writing my articles to know what's on your mind. So let me get to some questions real quick. Bruce Jacobson wanted to know which wide receiver I'd sit in a standard league. Marvin Harrison. By the way, this is where I remind you, player name, first name, last name is very helpful. Where they're playing is very helpful as well. Who they're playing, at least. Who or where, the where is not as important, but the who. I do have all that information. I know some of it in my head, but it's like makes it faster to process if you give me that information in the future. Thank you very much. Who will you sit in the standard? Marv, Jamie, Pearsall, Egbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jamison Williams. I'm guessing Pearsall and Egbuka. If I follow the projections and the rankings of Football Guys, even my own rankings, Pearsall is the odd man out here. Now, could I make an argument in a standard league that, wow, the Cardinals are big favorites, like 6.5-point favorites, and maybe they won't be throwing as much because I do like James Conner this week. Would that shade my decision? Probably yes. Egbuka is locked in no matter what. Pearsall, I think is a great play. I mentioned Juwan Jennings back. I like him an awful lot, but again, he didn't practice all month, right? So are my expectations high for him? No, I think Pearsall will be very busy. And Jameson Williams in a standard league seems like a big play threat. The chalk call on this is Egbuka, Harrison, they're very closely ranked, Williams, and Pearsall in that order, Bruce. Craig Jordan has a question. Flex spot, full PPR, Egbuka, Waddle, Jalen Warren, or Ridley. I do like Ridley a lot this year. I'm not sure I like him against Pat Surtain 2 in Denver. So probably not going to do that one this week. Jalen Warren's probably the safe play. Mike Tomlin announced he would handle the featured role until Caleb Johnson gets up to speed, and we'll see how long that is. A lot of depth chart stuff out. That was the topic of my Football Guys notebook this week, the depth chart chicanery. In the case of Pittsburgh, it's not really chicanery. We can talk about Washington. I'm sure we'll get some questions about Bill Krosky Merritt. But in this case, to me, it's between Egbuka and Warren. I'd like to get some shares of Egbuka, and I think he's in line for a big game. It's the Buccaneers against the Falcons. Mike Evans, who has dominated AJ Terrell, who is the tough covered corner there, is going to draw probably him a lot, and Egbuka probably has a nice path to workload. And all reports all summer have been great. So I think he's maybe more of a high side guy looking for a higher ceiling. Jalen Warren to me is the high floor play in a game that's got one of the lowest totals, I think, on the slate this weekend. Not expected to be a lot of scoring in that Pittsburgh Jets game. So those are my two choices there. You can sort through them. Again, Ridley, I like over the course of the season. I think he's going to be fantastic. I expect the offense of Tennessee to be better. I know that's a low bar, so it's not hard. I'm not going out and breaking any eggs here. But I do think that's good. And I have high hopes for Waddle. I know I mentioned Joe Dolan earlier. Joe Dolan from Fantasy Points drafted Waddle very early in one of the industry drafts we were in, and I had a chance to talk to him about it. He's pretty much convinced that this rebound season, you look back over the last 3 years, 100 catches as a rookie, then 70 plus the next 2 years, and last year was a bit of a struggle for him. Some of that related to Tua Tagovailoa not being available. And by the way, if give me a quick check. I'm guessing I haven't seen any comments. Let me look at the comments to see if my sound's okay. Sometimes have some issues with that. I don't know if that's the best call, Dame. I think you probably make the best calls. And yes, Scampers has it right. I feel pretty good about my Scott Fishbowl team going into the year. I'm not going to lie. I leveraged volume, so I have a lot of running backs that are in line for roles, so I do like that. And so thank you. I appreciate that. And there are no yard guys today, and the regulars here will know the reference there. We do tend to get yard guys every other week. This is not a yard guy week. So anyway, let's get to some of the other questions. What do I think Cam Scatterboo's chances of emerging the running back 3 is in standard? Same for Chris Rodriguez this year. So this will be a chance for me to talk about the Commanders situation. Also, I think we all had high hopes. And by we all, I mean me, for sure. I was pretty high on Cam Scatterboo coming in. I think he's an ideal fit for what the Giants want to do. But the hamstring injury he had slowed his role. And for a rookie, that's all important. So I think it'll take time. It'll be a slow roll than I thought. But I do think he has a chance of emerging as that. Chris Rodriguez also has a chance. We're going to find out a lot tomorrow. So we go into the Washington situation, right? And so the context of everything that happened in Washington is the glowing, the absolutely over-the-top reporting by everybody. Not like John Kine, Ben Standig, Brian Harrison, pretty much everyone I talk to on the regular, and I've talked to Ben Standig about this in depth, and he's been convinced for quite a while, and he put a little more context to this as well. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt has looked fantastic, right? Ken Bowman wrote on ESPN just this week, Krosky-Merritt is a guy who should be running the football on Sundays. Will he be? We don't know. Will it be Chris Rodriguez? We don't know. Could it be Jeremy McNichols? We don't know. For me, Austin Ekeler has the best defined role here. But if you really think they traded away Brian Robinson Jr. To give Austin Ekeler a featured role, or for Chris Rodriguez, who we heard absolutely nothing about until the preseason, or Jeremy McNichols, who's like a journeyman veteran but a great special teams guy, it's the buzz was all about Krosky-Merritt, right? It all was like a guy who played a single game, a 7th-round pick who played a single game of college football last year for my beloved University of Arizona Wildcats. Bear down. What makes sense here to you, right? And I guess that's what you have to figure out. Hopefully you don't have to play any of them this week. If I had to play one this week, it would be Austin Ekeler. I remind everyone, he scored double-digit points in PPR leagues in 8 of 12 games he appeared in last year. Good. Had a couple games against Pittsburgh where he scored a couple touchdowns. So he's serviceable. I don't know that I believe Chris Rodriguez is going to be a guy other than short yardage or goal line. But what's going to be telling is tomorrow, the game, the Commanders normally keep 3 running backs active. 2 that usually play, 1 that does more special teams, and we'll find out a lot about their plans at that point, right? Maybe they start keeping 4 available. So I think for me, Scadaboo has a better chance, but he was delayed. He was held up. And by the way, Chris Rodriguez has put a lot of time in working to change his body from what it was last year to make himself more athletic and add more speed. On the Brian Robinson situation, what Ben Standing told me was that this is something he saw coming for a long time. He just doesn't think Brian Robinson Jr. was a good fit for that offense. That he didn't give him what they want. So he is not surprised by this. He wrote a week before the trade, 2 weeks before the trade, that he wouldn't be surprised if Brian Robinson wasn't on the final roster this year. And lo and behold, he was right on that. He would probably be in the Krosky-Merritt camp. I'll just say that, and not the Chris Rodriguez camp. Toby drafted Mix in the 14th round, dropped him in his IR slot, then picked up Junkins after draft for 0 fab. So I've kind of had an evolution on this all summer. Like generally, you don't want to touch these guys, but when you get into round 14, like you're drafting contingent upside plays in ambiguous backfields if you're drafting running backs. So who has a more defined upside than a healthy Joe Mixon if he's back in Houston playing his usual role? Who else in the 14th round has that? 0 guys have that in the 14th round. I mean, some might emerge, but who has that going in? Nobody. I'd say Judkins. I said the same of Judkins the last couple of weeks. Like if he was there in round 10 or later, I was probably going to invest in shares because you look at the range of guys that are available there. And that's a pro move, Toby. Jonathan Santiago, JMO, or Travis Hunter. I'm going to probably play Jameson Williams here. Prefer the matchup for Travis Hunter. This is a good chance to tell you what I think about Travis Hunter, who, if I'm in an IDP league and I can plug him in at quarterback and get the wide receiver cornerback and get the wide receiver points all year long, big win. I think playing him as wide receiver, I feel like we got really excited about him. The Jaguars obviously got really excited about him, right? They went all in. And he is going to play both ways. But I'm going to go back to what James Gladstone said when they drafted him, which is there are going to be weeks where he's more a factor on offense and weeks where he's more a factor on defense. And like they do want his playmaking ability. I mean, that seems like he wants to be a thing. But until I get a feel for that, what that usage is going to be, do I think he's going to play like what he played 1,300 snaps at Colorado last year? Do I think that's going to happen at the NFL level? Probably not. I don't think. We'll see. I hope he proves me wrong. I'm taking J-Mo in the flex there, though, and I'm assuming that's Jameson Williams. Dave Overboard has this one. The Marvin Harrison versus at New Orleans versus Hunter. There we go. Minnesota's horrible against wide receivers, right? The conundrum there is Brian Flores brings the heat on opposing quarterbacks, makes it tough. So I have a little more faith. I know there's been some reporting on Caleb Williams out there last week. Tyler Dunn had some pretty horrifying stuff. If you didn't see it, you should go look it up. That really, they had to bring Caleb Williams along slowly. But either way, I mean, we've seen the upside for Caleb Williams. We've seen him put up top 5 performances last year. Matt Waldman, my colleague at Football Guys and the author of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio, also my co-host on a podcast that airs Mondays that I can't say the name of on this channel without apologizing. Can't apologize enough to Joe for saying feel it or F it. But check that out. Matt is pretty high. Thinks we're looking at a potentially top 6 season for Caleb Williams. But either way, I mean, I think Harrison's probably the right answer here, Dame. But I like Odunze's matchup an awful lot. And everything I said about Hunter, love the matchup and everything. Would like to see what the playing time is before I invest in it. Ooh, probably Peyton Manning. Daniel Jones, Spencer Rattler, Joe Flacco, or A-Rod. It's a 2-quarterback league, but only needs 1. This is odd. So my in and out column is up this morning, and I'm out on Daniel Jones, but I'm only out on Daniel Jones because of his projection. He's projected to be quarterback 12. It's a great matchup. Have we seen him cash in on great matchups a lot in his recent history? No. But to the degree possible, I know Spencer Rattler, Mauriel Tremblay, one of our projected team, is really high on him. I think Joe Flacco in a track meet, is perfectly acceptable. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones here, and I would probably rate them in the order you have them in general. I don't know if I feel great about Aaron Rodgers this week in the aforementioned in and out column. DK Metcalf is my out at wide receiver. The Sauce Gardner treatment, tough defense in general, low total. I think it might be the lowest projected total from our friends in the desert. And also, I think DK Metcalf's over-under is 55 yards, 55 and a half yards. So I just don't see a lot of passing going on in that game between Justin Fields and A-Rod. So I'm going to go in that order. Daniel Jones, and Jones has some rushing equity, so that's part of that equation for sure. Yes. It's the pass distribution the Bolts showed last night, how I expect it to be going forward with Ladd, McConkey, Keenan Allen, and Quentin Johnson all being legit fantasy starters. Do I think Justin Herbert is that good? Yes. Do I think he'll be that good every week? He's got to stay healthy and be on point. They obviously are going to be a run-first team. They struggled to run the ball. I expect more from Omarion Hampton as we go ahead. Looked like he got shut down a little bit. Didn't see, I wasn't all in on the Omarion Hampton hype, but the opportunity looked good, especially after Najee Harris missed all of August. And again, first series, 7 snaps for Hampton, 0 snaps for Harris. I know he finally got in the game, but man, we got to start taking into account these August long absences when we get to September. But to the point, I think, yes. I think it is entirely possible. And Will Dissly might even catch 1 or 2. Very sad to see Oronde Gadsden on the inactive list, though. Very sad. Jacoby Myers or TreVeyon Henderson for my flex today. I'm going to go with Henderson. I'm not even in Royal Slate out there is going to probably chime in on this one and be happy. I have not seen enough Henderson in college, but the reports have been glowing. It's going to be a timeshare there. I think Jacoby Myers is a fine play, and it's not a bad matchup for them either this week. But I'm going to go with Henderson. I want to play that upside this week. If you want just a super solid floor, here's the thing: Jacoby Myers has been a wide receiver 2 or better every year he's been a Raider. He was probably that in New England too. So he's a super solid play, super solid floor. I want a little taste of Henderson's upside for me this week. Yes. I don't know. Is it friendly fire, or is Travis Kelce got some kind of grudge against his own team? I don't know. That was horrible. We'll see what's going on today. Hey, new subscriber, Daniel Quintanilla. Did I say it right? Would I trade Kyren Williams and Juwan Jennings for Amon-Ra St. Brown? The other running back options are Genty Pollard, Jaylen Warren, and Ollie Gordon. Probably. I mean, it's not unfair. You might be giving up a little too much. There are do we have questions? Are we 100% sure this is going to be the same offense? I mean, I don't have these. These are not. I'm pretty comfortable with John Morton taking over the offense. He was there for Ben Johnson's first year before he moved on to other teams, etc. So he's familiar with the personnel. He's talked a lot about not reinventing the wheel. I feel pretty good about Amon-Ra. So you've got a top 12 wide receiver, probably higher than that if we look at his last 3 years, right? Numbers, right? I mean, better than top 12, right? Probably top 6. Like I'm not against this. I don't know what you listed your running backs and not your wide receivers. I think you have enough running backs to get by without them if you add Amon-Ra to the top end of your receiving core. I will say, though, Jauan Jennings, and for however long he's going to get a good workload, and it may not be this week, but like when he gets 70% of the snaps, he scores 17 fantasy points last year. He's not chopped liver. But at some point, Brandon Ayuk's going to be back. I don't know how good Brandon Ayuk's going to be. It's hard to say, right? Didn't look good last year. Maybe he looks better this year. They paid him to be a lot better. Jameson Williams or DJ Moore. Probably going DJ Moore in this one. Again, the Minnesota secondary lays down. If Caleb Williams can figure out the pressure, I think this will be good. Ridley or Jennings. This is a much tougher one. I want to be mindful of the August absence, but also, I mean, Ridley is the wide receiver 1 on this team. It is a tough matchup. I don't want to overstate it. I think if you go to the Football Guys projections right now, Ridley is probably 41. Jennings is probably 50, mid-50s, 55, 53. And they're right in that same range on my rankings. And yes, this is the key. It's your job, people. I'm still going to sit here and tell you all kinds of things. Here's the secret to all this. And I know this is not what you want to hear. I am an expert. No, I'm a professional. I do this. This is what I do. I assemble knowledge and I pass it along. That's my profession, right? And I have thoughts on all this. But I think the number one job for me is giving you the information you need to make the best decision. I mean, being the best informed manager in your league is your edge. That's all. It's the only control you have. You're not out there calling plays, throwing passes, throwing blocks, wrapping ankles, doing any of those things. You're not tackling anybody. You're trying to make the best informed decisions you can, the most logical decisions, right? And I'm trying to help you to get there like that. Pretending I have super secret knowledge, although I have some knowledge, but pretending I have some super secret knowledge above and beyond what I'm sharing with you is not true. And on Monday, you are the one who is going to be very angry. Shakir or Coleman versus Baltimore to pair with Josh Allen. I'm going to play it safe. I am a Keon Coleman fan. I like Keon Coleman. I love the reporting I heard out of training camp. I am mindful of the fact Shakir has been absent most of August with a high ankle sprain. He's off the injury report. Keon Coleman was a later addition. He is also off, but it's a more recent injury. I'm going to probably play it safe here, Dame, and go Shakir, because I think like the design of the Buffalo offense is passive, spreading the ball around, right? And so that means hitting the open guy. Keon Coleman doesn't necessarily have to be open for Josh Allen to throw to him. He loves throwing him the ball. But I think it is safe, and looking at the circumstances, who is the most targeted player in general? It's been Shakir. I'm going to keep going with that. Even in an offense designed not to funnel the ball to any one guy, because that's absolutely the case there. Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, has talked about it as recently a couple of weeks ago, talking about how Josh Allen's interception rate last year was the lowest of his career, like 1.4%, because they've been stressing to him, you don't have to throw to the guy that's called for in the play. Throw to the open man. He's done a great job of that. All right, Daniel, what did I miss? Oh, that was in a – I got you. Again, I think we sussed that. Hello, Jeff. Thank you. Looking forward to this as well. Love just sitting here talking football, listen to comments, kind of spitting off what you're interested in hearing. I hope you all find it helpful. If you do, subscribe, get the notifications. I will be here every Saturday at noon. I've always in the past done a Tuesday show as well on the hot seat. I'm not doing that now because now I have radio 7 days a week. And so can't do the Tuesday show anymore this year. I will bring it back probably in the off season like I did this last year. That was the place to get me. I hope to make it live, but that'll be a discussion that comes next year. But I'm going to be on because I must see the people. I am in too many leagues as well, Scampers. Way too many. Over 30 that I have to set. Hundreds that I don't have to set. I'm very happy about. Dobbins or Travian Henderson, thinking Dobbins was rookies. Like, I think for me, Dobbins is a safe play. We have Henderson ranked way ahead of him. And don't exactly know the timeshare. Slade, if you want to get in on that, Mr. Royal Slade, and give your expectation. I like talking to the beat reporters there. Like, everyone has glowing things to say about Henderson, but they say it's going to be a timeshare. It's also going to be a timeshare in Denver. And I expect Dobbins to be the 1A And this comes from Cecil Lammy, you hear on Football Guys on the Audible channel. And that's kind of my expectation. I think by the end of the season, Dobbins and Harvey are both going to have been serviceable fantasy plays that kind of are limiting factors for each other. They'll each probably have big games. I think Henderson's more likely to have big games any given week. He a playmaker. Justin Fields or Caleb Williams. This is interesting. Like we all want to play Justin Fields for his rushing ability, and I'm not against that at all. I don't know if this is the game I want to test that. Also, I don't know if this is a game I want to test Caleb Williams. I love the matchups for him in terms of the secondary, Minnesota secondary. I'm not a fan. I want to see how he processes the pass rush, the pressure. He's going to be on a ton of pressure. I'm going to play Justin Fields this week, and go from there and figure it out. I think this might be a tough weekly decision. If Caleb Williams is the guy that the Bears thought he was when he drafted him, the guy that Ben Johnson, look, Ben Johnson had choices, right? Like whatever you're reading about Caleb Williams struggling or getting off, here's what we know about Ben Johnson. He had choices. He could have picked from any number of teams, and he knew who the quarterback was going to be, right? Like, so it was not a mystery to him. So he came on board knowing this. Now, there's been a lot of talk all offseason long, and especially into camp, about Ben Johnson at various times being unhappy. Ben Johnson has made it clear he's coaching these guys hard, right? Coaching them hard. He's got to turn this ship around. I like the moves he made over the course of the offseason in terms of shoring up the middle of the offensive line. We saw Dave Canales do that in Carolina last year. We saw the results that eventually came for Bryce Young. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. I'm going to play Fields for the rushing equity this week as things sort out. Week one's weird, people. Week one's weird. Sometimes better to play it safe than go with your hunches. I feel like this is a safe play just based on the rushing equity. But again, that's my hunch. It doesn't have to be yours. Our guys very unhappy that they're not going to be here. I really think you guys probably don't hear the our guys as much as I hear them. Sounds like an angry hornet's nest has been dropped on my head, but I think it doesn't come through. Half-point PPR, Cedric Tillman versus Cincinnati or Tyler Warren versus Miami. I'm going to give Tyler Warren to go here. I'm a Cedric Tillman fan when he is up and active. But I think Tyler Warren is going to be a big weapon. I talked to James Boyd from The Athletic and asked him to, like, every time I talk to beat writers, tell me who gets the targets, who are going to be the top 3 target getters in an offense. And James Boyd, who last year went with, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., and who is his third? Can't remember his third. This year I know the top 3 because I just talked to him a couple weeks ago. It is Tyler Warren. It is Michael Pittman, Josh Downs this year. And he drew the distinction. He says Michael Pittman looks better. But Tyler Warren's going to be very busy in this offense, in his opinion. I'd give that a shot. We'll see what happens with Cedric Tillman. I have hopes for the Browns receiving core with Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. So while he's in there, we got to see who he is. I'm not saying he's the 2023 comeback player of the year, 300 yards a game, Joe Flacco. And if he turns the ball over, they're going to do something else. They do not want turnovers. So we'll figure that out. I think they'll eventually be a run-heavy team, but we've seen what receivers in this offense can do when they get behind, and it can be glorious. Bill Krosky, Merritt fan, check. Royal Slade. Brad Stewart wants to know, Rice has been... I would be very motivated. I would put a large percentage of my waiver fab on. We don't know how bad Worthy is. And we might not know until the Chiefs are pretty forthright. This goes back to Andy Reid's days in Philadelphia with Rick Burkholder, the chief of his medical team. Let's see if there's something going on here. What is Ian Rappaport talking about that I don't want to know about right now? Oh, the Quinshon Judkins signing is official. I would be people this is always a tough question. What percentage of your 200? What percentage would I do right now? I might go $75. I don't want to spend all my money on him. I think there are going to be other receivers who crop up. Maybe I want to put $5 on Tyquan Thornton. I do think Hollywood Brown's going to have a great role, but I mean, if it's a short-term injury for Xavier Worthy, I know Sigmund Bloom is among those out there speculating that maybe Tyreek Hill returning to Kansas City is the kind of thing you see. So I want to, and Hollywood Brown has his own problems, but he's a very good receiver. and clearly has the trust of Patrick Mahomes. So your urgency on this, Brad, should be how badly you need someone in your starting lineup right now, right? Like if he's not somebody you're going to start every week without question, then I wouldn't go overboard. I would slow roll it a little bit. And like, is it okay to keep him from somebody else's roster who has that need? Yes, but not at the cost of hurting yourself down the stretch. So I hope that helps. Chuckling at this comment, Bill Krosky's bread slices itself. I heard it's true. Bill can pick an orange from an apple tree. This also, I'm told, is true. Should I start Chigo Congo or Mike Gesicki? And again, names will be very helpful as we get through this. There will be times like it's a nice pace today, nice relaxed pace. It's not always like this as we get into the season and more people catch on to what's going on. I want you to catch on. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out every week as we have these joyous conversations and just talk football and some of the expectations that we have for circumstances and situations and sort through some of your lineup questions. Again, I always appreciate everybody who shows up for these things. It's super helpful for me to see what you're thinking and where you're at and what you're wanting to know about. So as I'm writing articles and doing my content, it's I'm greedy like that. I like to do a good job, and it helps me out. I think you reported that Pearsall hype may be premature. I think that's true. What do you make of that? The hype for Pearsall, maybe from my understanding, is it was a Raiders beat writer, so a grain of salt. So I'm not sure what reporting you're referring to, but there's a lot of it. So it wasn't a single person. But I think, you're just following the logic. Like, who's been there and practicing? We saw the late season run last year, so we have a little something to hang our hat on. We know Brandon Aiyuk is not going to be around for at least 4 weeks. I'm not sure if it won't be longer. So Juwan Jennings wasn't on the field throughout the course of training camp. Now they got a bunch of just guys, right? Marquez Valdez-Scantlings and Russell Gages, just guys, right? Who is it? Cowing has hurt his hamstring, so he won't be available. Guys that have been there with established roles aren't there. Pearsall is the guy with the established role. Now Jennings is back, and I think his role will grow. But again, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about these August absences. And not on accident, right? There's evidence of this. Like, is it true of every case? No. I hope you can think of somebody who missed all of August. Like, we can go back to every year. Like, I guess Jamar Chase had a pretty good season last year, sitting out a bunch of time. But CeeDee Lamb got off to a slow start last year. Brandon Aiyuk came in, after a hold-in. We'll see what Terry McLaurin does. Didn't practice all of August. I mean, should we have concerns for these guys? I think it's fair. But I think Pearsall hits the ground running. So here's my view of Pearsall. He is one of the top targets in an offense that's pretty good, right? Like him, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. Maybe McCaffrey's not available. That's more of a factor. Juwan Jennings missed all of August, so that's a factor. So I think there's reason to buy into the notion that Ricky Pearsall is in a good spot. I think I didn't draft a ton of them because I was in on Jennings so much, but that was before the August absence. So we'll see. So I like Bryce Young an awful lot this week. Do I like him more than I like Goff? Probably not. I guess taking a chance. I like Bryce Young. So here's my thing with Bryce Young. This is a little bit of wish casting. It's a great matchup for starters. I'm not happy that Adam Thielen's gone, but I am happy that Tetairoa McMillan's there, and they've got some other assets. Jatavian Sanders should be better this year. But the Bryce Young we saw last season was very good Bryce Young, right? And after the bye week, he came back and he was quarterback 6 over the final 7 games of the season. It was good. He was the guy they drafted him to be. And credit to Dave Canales for doing the things, including benching him, giving him a little time to step back. I'm hoping you're listening to that out there somewhere, Anthony Richardson. There is hope, young man. I will hold it eternal. Sorry. But yeah, I think that probably Goff is a safe play right now. But I do like Bryce Young an awful lot. Let me see where the Football Guys projections have them, because I think that's I can remove my biases that way. And by the way, our projection team, Jason Wood, Sigma Bloom, Moriel Tremblay, do a fantastic job. Goff, they have Goff 20, Bryce Young 22. I have Young ahead of that. That's my hunch, though. So, in the view of our projectors, neither of them are ideal choices. But I'll just say right now, I have Young well ahead of that. I have Young well ahead of that. I have Young right outside the quarterback 1 range, like 15-ish. So that's my hunch. You're welcome to play it, but you don't have to play it. I think that's where we'll be at on that. Why'd I skip you what? Are we going to do this? Like, I'm rolling through a lot of questions. I'm going to scroll back up and see if I can find what your question was that I missed, but I don't always get to every question. And there will be people in the chat who will help you out. I skipped you because I don't see your question. Didn't see a question. That's why I skipped you. There's your answer. So if you want to repeat your question, maybe I'll see it again before I'm done. Vibes on yucky running backs that I love and adore. Chubb at Rams. We are simpatico on this. Jordan Mason at Chicago. Jerome Ford at Cincinnati. Jerome Ford's probably the guy, right? Like, he's probably a smart choice. I would go Chubb and then Mason and figure out what's going on with Mason. All the reporting has been glowing, right? Like, I mean, everyone says it's going to be 50-50 at least with Aaron Jones. And Mason's a really good runner. I think until I see it, I'm going for the guy who catches some passes in the track meet game and hope he can get something done. I do like Chubb more than the world, but I don't know that that's going to be entirely helpful. The one exhibition game I saw him in was a lot better than everything I'd been told by people on the ground, including John McClain, who's been covering that team for 50 years, almost 49 years, and is pretty trustworthy, pretty good observer of the game. He just thought he looked washed in practices. Maybe he was holding it out. He looked good. Got 5 yards of carry in that exhibition, that second exhibition game. Then they held him out in the third. So I think there's a role there. So, not against Chubb. I'm probably playing Ford here pretty easily. London. Drake London versus Tampa or Sutton versus Tennessee. I'm going to go London on this one, Andrea. I know you're going to have a lot of tough decisions all year. Andrea is one of the best drafters on the planet Earth. I see her teams every year, and I go, damn. And she always has tough decisions. I think this one's pretty relatively easy for me. I do love Courtland Sutton. I think a finish within last year's wide receiver 12 range is, a nearly wide receiver 1 finish is locked in. I think London is going to be very busy this year. Josh McDaniels has some stuff cooking to maximize Henderson's explosiveness. This is reporting from the ground from a fan who follows this closely. People, Royal Slade, the Patriots. He won't need to be a bell cow to be successful. I think and he's an excellent pass blocker and a huge big play threat. So I like all that. Not all the questions have to be about football. I encourage you to ask me about my cat, my lovely cat Wally, sleeping on the couch peacefully. Music, food, fajitas, or surf and turf burrito. Fajitas all day long for me, all day long. Surf and turf burrito sounds delightful though, but I am a fajita fan. QJ, Quentin Johnston is likely available in a bunch of redraft leagues. I believe that to be the case. And if we're out there trying to, jump in and get ahead some of these people, Quentin Johnston's going to be very popular. Obviously, Keenan Allen, if he wasn't drafted in your league, should be very popular. I don't know if I'm running out and chasing down Kareem Hunt, but he's going to have a role, right? Probably to some degree for a little while. In the Thursday night game, I'm not ready to give up on Jaden Blue, but obviously you're going to see some things early in the season. Maybe tomorrow in Jacksonville, maybe Bashal Tootin won't be active, but that doesn't mean I'd be giving up on him, right? So, so there's going to be a lot of things happening. I think Tyquan Thornton, the reporting on him all summer long has been super high end, right? Like the guy, but he's just another one of those speed guys, and probably Xavier Worthy would have made some of the plays that Tyquan Thornton didn't. That doesn't mean Tyquan Thornton can't be serviceable. Just don't overpay for any of these assets, I don't think. Thank you. I love doing the 10-minute pod every morning. I hope you all find it helpful. It's the Football Guys Daily Update podcast. You can see it on the site. I usually tweet it out on my X feed and my Bluesky feed when I remember to do that. And also, we kind of I did a little extra one yesterday, but at 10 minutes every morning, first thing of the day, just kind of gets you on top of everything. It give you a quick take thing. If you listen to my radio show, you're kind of similar to the first 10 or 15 minutes of that. Percentage of fab on Quentin Johnston. Again, percentages of fab are tough questions for me because I don't know your league. I don't know how aggressive people are in your league. I'm generally not as aggressive. And, like Mike Dempsey, my co-host on the radio and on the Daily Update podcast, is more aggressive. I don't think he'd be aggressive on Quentin Johnston. I think a wide receiver, I'm a little less aggressive. So, I don't want to land him. No, I want to put a reasonable amount in, 25% of my fab if I really think he's going to be a guy. Like, I guess that's the determining point. Is someone who goes immediately into my starting lineup every single week. Then if so, I'm willing to pay 90% or more of my fab. If this is just a depth piece, it's 50% or less. Maybe 25% is ideal. Hey, that's my hunch. Oh, so you have Tyrone McMillan, so stacking might be. I think it might be, right? So there you go. Aaron Jones, is this the one I missed? I hope everyone helped you. I try to get to all the questions, but there's going to come a point where I can't get to all the questions. So when people in the chat help each other out, I greatly appreciate that, as all the regulars know. Sutton or Pearsall, half PPR. I'm going Sutton there. Wally or Wally, the latter. Wall-E. It's like that. But the only cat I have that I didn't name, like usually my cats are named after villains in movies. Ming the Merciless, Wo-Fat, the Chinese spy from Hawaii Five-0, has been in the past. Lo Pan, if you ever watched the Big Trouble in Little China, you'll be familiar with that character. So Wally was not named by me. He came with a name, just 8 weeks of age, but he came with a name. So I have stuck with it, and he has stuck with it as well. He got attacked by a bobcat a couple weeks ago. By a bobcat. Like a full-grown bobcat. I was out there, the bobcat. So I hear the howling and I step out the door and I look up at a tree, and there's Wally up there, and there's something like right below him, and I jumps, the thing falls out of the tree. It's a bobcat. This thing's as tall, the middle of my thigh, right? And I take a step forward, I'm yelling and clapping, and it's just like going, no, I want to eat that little cat. He was not going anywhere. He stuck around for a little bit, very, very frightening, but Wally's pretty cagey about these things. Kareem Hunt looked like he had juice. Yes. Sadly, he did. And Pacheco looked like he did not. And total disappointment for me. I'm going to say if we don't see some kind of change soon, that's going to be one of my big misses. I wasn't like out there drafting Isaiah Pacheco, like with reckless abandon, but there were points where I thought he looked like a really good value. Would I start Jaylen Warren versus Jets or Ridley versus Broncos? Probably going to go Warren there. My favorite bands. There is no favorite band. I'm not going to ask you who your favorite child is. You don't get to ask me who my favorite band is. But my favorite bands, there's Metallica, there's Tool, Black Sabbath. There's too many lists. The top two are the top two, though, for sure. Tool and Metallica are my go-tos. But I like many, many, many bands of music, Judas Priest. Many bands have been with me a very long time. Quentin Johnston looked good, but he has before, maybe nervous. But players do progress, right? He seems to be a player who's progressing. I think the big concern for all those receivers is in an ideal world, in historically ideal seasons for Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh offenses, like one guy who's a valuable. I think, like if this year there are multiple receiving assets that are valuable in fantasy, it will be the first year ever in their time together. It's always been one guy, Michael Crabtree, Anquan Bolden, Greg. And that goes for Roman's solo stints too. Sammy Watkins in Buffalo, Marquise Brown in Baltimore. It just seems like the thing. It just seems like that's how it goes. So if that changes materially this year, that will be it'll be different than what we've seen in the past. And so that'll be interesting in and of itself. Got a little time here left. So, cat named after Stewie from Family Guy. That's a fine choice. As Jack Burton would say, that's a top 3 movie for me, for sure. Totally scary situation with the Bobcat. So I just want to review again the injuries. If you have any last questions, and I'm sorry if I missed a question. I tried to scroll back and see that one, and I did not see it. So apologies for that. Not looking to miss anyone's questions. But there's going to come a time when I can't answer all your questions. So what I try to do is the questions I answer, I try to answer them broadly and apply, kind of demonstrate what the logic is being applied. And you can apply that logic to your situations too. A lot of times it's going to be paths to workload. opportunities are the primordial sludge from which all fantasy scoring rises, right? So I'm not taking chances on guys that I don't know are going to get good opportunities. I'm trying to avoid that. So this week, what are we doing with Christian McCaffrey? We're waiting, right? And even at that, we're looking at what our options are, right? And so, take a chance to right now go out on your waiver wire, see who's available in the late afternoon kickoff window. If you don't have somebody suitable, who's available in the Sunday night game, who's available in the Monday night game that might help you avoid a zero. Right now, what you can do is move Christian McCaffrey to your flex, so you get maximum ability to swap around, move around, do what you need to do if he's ruled out. I mean, and then you still have a decision to make. Like, do we really want to play a guy if we don't think he's 100%? My thought on that is, if the 49ers are going to put him out there, I'm putting him out there, right? Like, I can't see them taking chances with this after last year. So we'll go with that. I think that the other guys, I mean, like, am I worried? So no CMC. I am more confident in Brian Robinson Jr. at the moment, but I think both of them would be like playable if you were in a pinch. Like, if you were sitting there, if you drafted before the trade and Guerendo is your handcuff, that's no longer really a handcuff. He's still an insurance policy, and I would do that. So thank you, Andrea. So I would definitely do that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone coming every Saturday. I know it takes some time out of your day. I appreciate it. It's more for me than you. So again, if I missed a question, I apologize for that. I'll try to do a better job. But when I don't do that, I do think you find reliable people, smart people in the chat who will be happy to chime in and help you out with that. I'm always happy to have the assistance of everyone in there. So we'll see what happens, but we'll see what happens also with some of the injuries that we're already dealing with, some of the circumstances, players returning from injury. What does Devon Achane do? I'm super intrigued by that. What happens with the Commanders' backfield? Super intrigued by that. I mean, that seems to me like the biggest, maybe the biggest wild card of the weekend is we don't know. I mean, non-injury for sure, right? We just don't know. I want to see how Terry McLaurin is in his first game back. What is Deebo Samuel doing that offense? Thoughts on an A.J. Brown traded away for Chuba Hubbard and Xavier Worthy? I think that was right now that doesn't look good because Xavier Worthy's hurt. But I think in general, I think that probably looks pretty good. I talked about it all off season long. Like, there came a point in the draft. How do I avoid the Brown McConkey decision? Well, my answer a lot of times was I went 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds. I just didn't feel comfortable with either Brown or McConkey. And I don't want to say like they both might end up having phenomenal seasons. My argument on Brown was the Eagles' passing volume has diminished over the last 2 years. Last year was like over 140 attempts fewer. 140 fewer attempts than the year before. And that year was down. And the games where Jalen Hurts threw the ball 30 times, I think there was like 5 games. And they were like 10-1 in the games where he didn't throw 30 passes. They want to run the football. And so I was worried about that. And then the McConkey, like, I had some concerns about Keenan Allen. I had concerns about Trey Harris. No talk of him. Love to be supporting the Harrises, including Najee. I hope you pick up the pace there, brother. But yeah, I think that's the whole AJ Brown, like Devontae Smith didn't have a great game either. But I think those guys are. It's a tough one though. But I think that's a good trade anyway. I like all that. Thank you everyone for coming. I too went on BRB. I think that was for me the thing that I ended up doing most. Maybe sometimes I went for the tight end. Probably less than that, probably less of that and more of the 2 running backs. But that was usually, there's a certain range of draft where that happened from, right? It wasn't like that wasn't a normal thing. Usually you get 1 good receiver. Like, if you started at either of the ends, you got a really good receiver and a really good running back, or 2 really good receivers or 2 really good running backs. It was good. All right, everybody. Week 1, we've survived it. We had a good time. I only missed 1 question. I apologize again. I will miss more, but I will answer more than I miss. And I appreciate you all coming. Once again, Monday through Friday, you can hear me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time with Mike Dempsey. You can hear me Saturday. That's tonight, 3 hours on the NFL radio and the Fantasy Channel. Mike Dempsey and me will have JB Calandro on to talk a little DFS. Going to have Joe Pisapia on from Fantasy Pros to join us. I think our game of the week is Buffalo-Baltimore, so we'll have beat writers for both of those teams. Then tomorrow, Sunday morning, pregame show on SiriusXM from 11 to 1 with Jeff Mans. Throughout the week, you'll see me on Football Guys with the Daily Update podcast every morning, 10 minutes of NFL news and fantasy analysis to start your day. Fantasy Notebook on Thursday, my Friday Polarizing Players collab with Gary Davenport. And on Saturdays, the In and Out. That's up right now. Go read it. It's fantastic. Not really, but it's good enough to keep you busy. All right, everybody. Good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you next week.